This is Chris Russell doing a special interview on Wave 94 for the Wakulla County Chamber of Commerce. And today I am honored to be in the presence of Jennifer Nagy, who is the Emergency Management Director here in beautiful Wakulla County. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys today?
Good.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. It's been a minute. I think it's, about 4 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. Back in COVID, the C word. So
we don't want to go back to those days.
We do not. We survived. So I really appreciate you taking the time, seriously. I mean, we're in hurricane season. Right now, we've had the first Category 5 this early in the season.
That is correct. Beryl was a record breaker. It's the earliest Category 5 we've ever had in the Atlantic Basin. Not off to a good start.
No. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, well, I know we're already at the Chris. He was kind of a dud. He didn't do anything, which is what my wife would say. But so it's very active already, right?
It has been an active season. So they were expecting an active season. They've been saying that since early on. We know the Gulf waters are extremely warm. We're looking at going into a La Nina type season, which really, for the layperson, what that really means for us and for the storm season is that there's not a lot of wind shear, which means the storms can grow stronger. So you're expecting more of those stronger storms to actually make it to landfall, which is not a good thing. No,
so we're not getting the wind shear, and that's going to allow them to just come on across easier.
No wind shear, and the water is warm.
Deadly combination. Deadly combination. Well, we kind of jumped right into hurricanes, but before we get on that, which is the gist of this, can you talk about your role here, your team, what y'all do on day in and day out?
Absolutely. So I'm the Emergency Management Director here for Wakulla County, and most people do think about hurricanes. That's probably when people come talk to me, that's most of their questions lie around the hurricanes. But we're all hazards. We do all of the planning for anything that may impact our county. So that can be anything from terrorism to day-to-day traffic crashes, hazardous materials, hurricanes, fires. We kind of encompass all of that in our planning and what we would do in those type of events.
You just mentioned something, fire. It's been an active fire season throughout the state already. Luckily, we've had some rain recently, but before that, it was pretty dry. Any words of advice before we get on the hurricanes about clearing around your house or anything?
Just that, exactly what you said. You know, things that you need to watch for, making sure you have that space cleared around your house to help kind of keep the fire away from your home. And being very careful about burning in your yards, making sure you're following all of the rules and that you're not doing any type of burning when it's super dry. Like you alluded to recently, it was very, very dry. We've had some good rain now, but you don't want to burn when it's dry. You don't want to burn when it's windy, things like that. Those fires get out of control very fast.
Absolutely. We have an outstanding fire service, but it's hard to keep up when somebody's out there burning and it gets away from them.
Absolutely.
See it all the time. Okay, so you're Emergency Management Director here. You cover all aspects of the emergencies down here, and you have a team here. Are you over to 911 as well?
I am. So as Emergency Management, there's two of us. It's me and the Deputy Director, Lucy Gotti, and we are both also over the 911 Communications Center, which is right across from the hall from where we're sitting. It's a great team, and they do a fabulous job over there.
Outstanding, outstanding. And if you can't tell, we're in the county EOC. You're housed here in the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, so this is the Emergency Operations Center here for Wakulla County. We're really excited that actually in a few years from now we should have a new one. We have the funding and the design to build a new one that'll be a little bit larger than this one, and it'll encompass the 911 and Emergency Operations Center. So we're excited about that. But
nice.
Currently, this is it.
Yeah, you know what? When you're activated, maybe we should come in and shoot some video. I mean,
That'd be great.
I know what you do because although I'm a federal employee, I work at the state EOC and I know your aspect, but I think people probably don't really appreciate what y'all go through 24 hours a day, the buzzsaw that's going on in a local EOC.
That is correct. So we don't leave this room. You just said 24 hours a day. We take turns taking naps, and that's pretty much all Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, and EOC staff, our communications folks. We bring them in. We tell them, bring a sleeping bag, find a corner where you can take a nap. It's when everything is kind of rocking and rolling, we are 24/7 and we are here, all hands on deck. And there are a lot of other partners. That's probably the piece that people don't realize as well, that there's we break Florida. In Florida, we break it into emergency support functions. Is kind of how we say it, and what that means is it's all the other partners that have a role in response and recovery and all the pieces we need to properly protect our community. And so that's your public works, your Red Cross, your fire rescue, your sheriff's office. your health department, I couldn't sit here and name them all. Your electric utilities, they have a seat here in the room. They're here with us. Our communications folks, we are all in the same room together to help that communication flow a little smoother during an activation.
Which is absolutely necessary, having that coordination going on. Well, great. Thank you, and thank everyone for what they do on that. So switching over to kind of the topic du jour, hurricanes.
Absolutely.
Noah's already said to expect an above average year.
Yes.
You've already explained why.
Yes.
All right. So right now, what should folks be doing? Let's take two pieces. Let's start with citizens, just a regular citizen. What should they be doing right now, blue skies, preparing for hurricane season?
So we tell people to remember the catchphrase, be prepared, get connected, stay engaged. And we can break that into those parts. That be prepared is that you should be working on your plan right now. And to keep it as simple as possible, you should have 2 plans if you live in this community. We are a coastal county, and therefore the entire county is subject to an evacuation. We are broken into zones. That's your first step, is go find your zone. You can go to Wakulla County's website, you can pull up their GIS portal, type in your address, and it will tell you whether you're A, B, or C evacuation zone, because that's how we call evacuations. Pretty much anything south of 98 is going to be zone A. They're along the coast. They're going to hit that storm surge first. Therefore, they are usually the first to get evacuated. So that's the big one. Know your zone when you're making your plan. And then even if you're in zone C and you're in a northern part of the county, I tell people to still plan for that. Have 2 plans. Have your I'm going to stay, which means you should have a kit with 5 to 7 days to sustain yourself, because we may not be able to get to you. So that's food, that's water, that's knowing your power could be out for up to 7 days or more if it's a major catastrophic storm. So that's what you need to complete in your kit. And we have actual lists on our website that you can go to get a more specific what to have in your kit kind of thing. And then your plan to go is because, as I said, if you're facing a Category 4 or 5 storm in this community, we're going to call for an evacuation. It's just not a good idea to stay. In a worst case storm surge model, it pushes water all the way into Tallahassee. So it's not worth the risk to stay in that situation.
And that's just water. That's not the wind.
That's just water. We tell people run from the water, hide from the wind. You don't necessarily need to evacuate hundreds of miles. We tell people go 10s and 20s of miles, but get out of the county, get away from the water, and find a structure that's safe enough to hide from the wind.
Yeah, and so in that kit, getting your 5 to 7 days, I'm going to assume my wife does medicine. You need to have your medicines, right?
Absolutely. So most health insurances have come a long way in that if your doctor approves it, a lot of them you can get a 3-month prescription during hurricane season. That's always a good idea. That way you're not running out. But if that's not the case and you know there's a storm in the Gulf, that's the time to work with your insurance company and go ahead and get those refills beforehand, because whether you're evacuating to a shelter or to a friend or a family member, or even if you're staying home, you know that the pharmacies are going to be closed and we're not sure when they'll be open.
That's
so
right.
You need to have those refills on hand ahead of time.
That's a good point. And so some insurance companies allow that during hurricane season?
Yes, that is correct.
Good. And that's great to know. People really do need to do that, because a lot of people are on medicine, myself included, so you have to be prepared. All right, so that's our citizens. That's our hey, that's me and you going, what if I own a business here in Wakulla County? Should I be setting aside backup files or records or anything like that?
Yep, so you pretty much nailed it. Really, it's not that different, right? You should still have a plan ahead of time. Your plan's there really, and again, even with your home, it's mitigation factors. How do I keep my business safe so that I can, and in a business so that I can reopen as soon as possible? A lot of businesses do not reopen after disasters, after damage, because they're not built for that type of closure and being closed. So knowing ahead of time, having rosters of your employees, how to contact them, how to make sure they're safe, working with them ahead of time to make sure they have plans for their family, making sure that all of your files are backed up somewhere, and if you can access them remotely, even better. We call it COOP planning, which is continuity of operations planning. It's where can I operate my business from if the building is damaged? Do you have a plan to be able to operate remotely from somewhere else? Or do you have a relationship with somebody else where you can go operate out of their building if you need to?
Right, so they need to be thinking the same thing through. 2 plans in essence, and then part of that having the COOP capability and having everything backed up where they can go And just, yeah, I mean, because we, obviously, Chamber of Commerce, we want our businesses back. We want them back quickly. So this, for them, for the businesses that may be watching or listening, please take the time to do this. I'm just going to pause right here 1 second and just do a little reminder. This is Chris Russell doing a special interview for the Wakulla County Chamber of Commerce on Wave 94 with Miss Jennifer Nagy, the EM Director here in Wakulla County. And again, thank you for taking the time. Something you said a while ago, my mind was listening, racing, going different ways. What if I'm down in Zone A and I need to evacuate and I don't have anywhere to go? Can they call here and find out where shelters are? Do you have a network to say go here or whatnot?
They can. So that's part of that getting connected and getting engaged. That get connected is know how you're going to receive your information. The Sheriff's Office has an app now, so during major disasters, we're pushing information out through the app. We push it out through Facebook. We work with our local media sources to push out information. And that's everything from evacuations to where shelters are open, where you can go, evacuation routes, what you need to do. All of that will be put out in those methods. And Wakulla County also has a Facebook page, and they share it as well.
Good deal. And we're pet lovers. We have a little rescue dog ourselves. Any advice for those that may have animals?
Yep. Just like with your plan, you need to have a plan for your pet. So there are, by state statute, there are now pet-friendly shelters. I will back up a little bit on that note. You need to also know that in Wakulla County, if it's a Category 3 or above, we do not open shelters in Wakulla. If it's below that, Crawfordville Elementary is our main shelter and will be open, but we'll put that information out. If it's a 3 or above, because we are a coastal county, we currently do not open, which means you will have to go to at least Leon County to find shelter. And in that case, in those media blasts, we will also put out where their shelters are and what locations are there. For pet-friendly shelters, you'll need to pay attention to which ones are pet-friendly and which ones are not. Here in Wakulla, it would be Crawfordville Elementary if we open.
Okay.
In Leon, they move it around a little bit, so you would just need to be paying attention to which ones are pet-friendly. If you intend to take your pet to a shelter, you need to make sure you have a crate, current vaccination records, and much like us, some pets are on medication, so be sure if they have any special dietary needs or medication that you bring those with you.
Same concept, 5 to 7 days supply, thinking about it?
Absolutely.
Good deal. So I'm thinking about Port St. Joe, Mexico Beach, Hurricane Michael.
2018.
So there were homes just wiped out. And then I'm thinking about, I worked Katrina, whatever year that was, 2005. Yeah, Katrina. And when I worked in Mississippi, there was a difference between working in Mississippi and working in Louisiana. In Mississippi, you had no house to go to. You had a slab. Over there in Louisiana, there were flooded houses. We could see that here, right?
You can see both here. It just depends, and that's where a lot of people get confused. There's a lot that plays into storms as far as surge and size of the storm. Your categories are based off of wind speed, but you can have a Category 2 storm that has a large wind field and may push more surge and water. So several years back, they used to link it all together. Several years back, they separated surge from the category of storm because they realized that really a lot of times surge is more the size of the storm and width versus the strength of the storm. Strength matters, but so does size. And speed and direction.
A great example of that is, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis was right before Katrina, same year. And St. Mark's was flooded, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to go,
no, you're
we're talking
correct.
almost 20 years.
Yeah, it was over 10 foot of surge, I believe, in Dennis, and that was 2005, and that actually made landfall all the way over in Pensacola. So that's some of the things where people get confused. They think it's not coming here, we're not going to have impacts. They focus on the small line of where the storm is going and not the impact field. And Dennis was a great example of that because it made landfall in Pensacola and did major damage here in Wakulla County.
Major damage. And I remember that. I remember how flooded we were. And that cone that we're talking about is now called the cone of uncertainty. Folks should really listen to that. The cone of uncertainty. That's just where they are thinking, right?
That is correct. And they've come a long way with their forecasting, but that cone can switch back and forth absolutely with every updated forecast track.
And something we were talking about a while ago, and you said you had this in your presentations. On average, a storm, as I recall, I saw this recently, on average, over the last 100 years, all the major storms 3 days before were
A tropical storm. 3 days before landfall, all of the Category 5s were still a tropical storm.
Including Michael.
Including Michael.
For the last 100 years. And then I think I read where on average a hurricane that makes landfall in Florida, it's 50 hours from tropical storm to that hurricane.
Roughly, and it depends. They call it rapid intensification,
right,
which is that huge increase in wind speed in a short amount of time. And really, that's the struggle, right, with calling evacuations and things like that, and why it's so important for people to watch these storms from the get-go and to pay attention and to listen to their local officials, because those storms do intensify rapidly sometimes, and we can go from thinking it's a mild tropical storm to, wait, hey, we really need to be watching this one. This one's going to intensify on us.
Isn't that crazy? So you're danged if you do, danged if you don't.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, really, because if you say evacuate and it doesn't, and so that 50 hours, that was average, obviously. So it goes up and down, but yeah, can we talk about that real quick? So danged if you do, danged if you don't. I'm from here. I've ridden them out. I've been on St. George and ridden one out. How do you overcome that mindset with folks like, for lack of better words, folks like me and I take it more serious. Once you have a wife and kids, you get more serious, but any words of wisdom?
It's very difficult, and I'm from here too, so I completely understand the mindset. I understand the people who don't want to leave, who feel they don't have the means. So there's a couple of things to understand. One, we're asking you to go short distances, not long distances. Mm-hmm. Two, understanding that it does rapidly intensify, and that as good as we've gotten with those cones that we talked about, it's never going to be perfect, right? So there was a lot of pushback after Adelia. That's a great example because it's fresh in most people's minds. It was last year. We did call for a county evacuation during Adelia, and our impacts here ended up being minor, and I'm grateful. We've truly really been blessed. But it made landfall in Taylor County. That's very, very close.
Oh, yeah.
And up until just a few hours before landfall, there was still that chance that it was going to make landfall in our county. So some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't see is that we work very closely with the National Weather Service. And I was on the phone nonstop with National Weather Service Tallahassee. They were running current models. They were telling us what they were thinking. And that evacuation was called based on a conversation where I talked to somebody at the Weather Service who said, look, some of the models are very, very confident still that it may go into the Franklin County, Wakulla County line. Being on the east side of the storm is the worst side of the storm. That's where most of your impacts come from. That would have put us on the east side of the storm. And I specifically said, if that happens, best estimates, models, what am I looking at? And he said the potential for 14 foot of storm surge in your county.
Wow.
So that's the kind of things that people need to realize. That's where we're making our decisions. And while the storm ultimately went into Taylor County, you don't have time to wait until the last minute to make that decision on whether or not to leave.
Again, still fresh in my mind, Michael, and how quickly that intensified. And if you rode over there after the storm, you saw the damage, and it was just miserable. So what you're saying is you're not sitting around here drinking coffee, eating donuts, and just saying, yeah, maybe we should or shouldn't. There's a whole lot going into it.
There's a lot of science that goes into those decisions.
And don't you wish folks really knew?
I do.
Well, I mean, seriously, don't you? I mean, I get it. I get it. Don't you wish folks really? And like I said, maybe we'll come shoot a video when it's active. Well, I can't come up, but somebody will come shoot one. Because people really need to understand what a buzzsaw this area is going on right here in this one room. And then coordinating with the state, which is coordinating with the feds. It's crazy.
We call it controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos. Good stuff. So I've heard you touch on some different areas, but, as emergency management director here, what is your top concerns when a storm is approaching? Like things that you've seen over the years. What really concerns you for the people who may not be listening or could do better?
My top concern is always going to be the safety of our citizens. Property can be replaced. Nobody wants to lose their home. My home is here. I don't want to lose my home. But at the end of the day, it's lives that can't be replaced, and that is my top concern, and people not taking it seriously. There's a couple of things that you and I had talked about earlier that people maybe don't think about or don't understand. Things like the fact that we have policies in place that once the wind is up to 35 miles an hour sustained, then we pull our rescue units off the road. Law enforcement's not responding, fire rescue, Our ambulance services, nobody's responding once that wind hits a sustained 35 miles an hour because it's not safe for them and it's not safe for their vehicles. So what people don't think about is once that happens, sometimes then we start seeing the 911 calls come in of people that now they're scared and they want to leave, and we can't come at that point. We can help you get out, we can provide transportation, we can do all of those things before the storm hits, but once it hits that sustained 35 miles an hour, we're not coming. And so the other piece they don't think about is it may not even be a storm-related issue. If your loved one has a heart attack or a stroke or any other medical issue and you call 911, there's a possibility that we can't get to you until after the winds die down. We're still going to take your call, we're going to take your information, and as soon as it's safe to do so, we'll respond. But there's that time frame where we just may not be able to, and if there's large amounts of trees down, it could be time before we can clear the road to get to you.
Absolutely. So let's hit that again. So y'all oversee 911 here.
That is correct.
Y'all get calls every hour on the hour for emergency services.
Yes, sir. 24 hours a day, nonstop.
There's no sustained 35 mile per hour outside right now. Matter of fact, it's probably like 105 degrees and hot.
Right.
Those calls are going to continue regardless, but once you reach that 35 miles per hour, you're not coming to get them, and that's not the right. It's not that you're not coming to get them. You're forewarned. You can't come get them.
We can't.
Because you're taking. It's kind of like chess, if you will. You're taking your queen or your rook out to go help a pawn. And I know that probably sounds terrible, but you know what? In reality, there's a lot more value to that piece of equipment and those first responders for the greater the community than the one or two people that did not listen to the warning.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
That's fair. We're limited in resources, and that's what you have to remember. We are a small, fiscally constrained county. We're limited in resources to begin with. We can't afford to lose those resources or put those lives in danger to go out in those types of situations. Again, we want to rescue people. We want to help. It's not that at all. We're going to take your call. We're going to take your information. And as soon as it's safe to do so, we're going to do our best to get to you. But those are things people need to take into consideration when they decide to stay is, hey, I am truly going to be self-sufficient for a period of time when they can't get to me. And is it worth that risk?
And yeah, self-sufficient if everything's okay.
Right.
Going back to the 911 calls, you've probably gotten 20 since we've been here. The continual 911 calls that you get every day, you can't even factor that in, right? I mean, you can't prepare to 3 to 5 days on that. Wow, I hope folks are really grasping that on any given day, there are emergencies here in the county, and they will not cease during a storm, but once we have sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, basically, you're going to have to just ride it out until it subsides.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait till it's done. And I've heard those calls, working through, I've been doing this for 25 years. So, and I've been over dispatch at different times. I started my career as a dispatcher. It's really hard I will put a plug for my communications officers. It's also hard on them to have to take those calls from the people that refuse to go. And then they're calling in crisis and they want to be rescued. And to have to say to somebody, we can't come is very, very difficult for them as well.
Again, I hope people grasp that. You have folks here that are in the mix of it, in the buzzsaw, and then they have that added mental and physical pressure of taking that call that my wife just had a stroke. I'm sorry. You should have evacuated. Yeah. So really, and here's something, Jennifer, that I think people really, really, really should grasp. You're not fly by night. You're not someone that came to Wakulla County as a stepping stone to try to move up to somewhere else. You're from here. You're invested here. You are here. So when you're looking out for the people, you're looking out for friends and family that are going to be friends and family tomorrow. So they really should heed your warning. Right?
100%. I am here because I want to serve my community.
Right.
I grew up here. I graduated from Wakulla High School. I did go work in Leon County for about 20 years.
We all look. We're at the chamber. Yeah. We're trying to get enough jobs so our kids don't have to go. I went away as well,
But I am happy to be back here serving my community, and I do what I do for that very reason, that I'm from here and I love it. I love my county and want to serve and help people here. And you have a keen perspective being from here of areas that, flood and have impact. And again, you're not, this isn't a stepping stone. You're invested here. Look, I hope people understand that. It's, and folks that move here,
I hope they understand, like, you're from here and you want this place to survive, and just, you know, I hope they really understand the personal touch, if you will, for lack of better words.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no,
I do put my heart into my job. I love what I do, and I love my community.
Without a doubt. And Miss Lucy, same thing. You know?
Absolutely. She grew up here as well and has been here at this department for over 20 years.
Yep. So, and kind of wrapping up, is there any other messaging that you'd like to get out? Anything that you know, if you're still with us, listening or watching or whatever, what is there something you want to drive home?
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Okay.
Because, and I'm guilty myself probably, we tend to put things off. We wait until we see it in the Gulf, and for lots of reasons, that's not a good idea. One, you see things disappear off the shelves, right? So you should be buying your supplies now instead of hitting the stores when you see it out there in the Gulf, because things may not be available.
Right.
You know, if you're going to make plans for where you're going to go, the time is now. Because shelters, let's face it, they're available to keep people safe, but they are life rafts, not cruise ships. They are in schools, they are in large rooms. You will be lucky if you have a cot. It's a blanket and a sleeping bag. Bring your supplies with you.
Yeah.
If you have dietary needs, you need to bring that with you. For those that are diabetic or may have some kind of special diet, you're going to need to bring that with you to a shelter. So those are things that are much easier planned ahead than planning when it hits.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I will add is if you have a loved one that has special needs, again, now is the time to reach out to my department. We can get you registered for a special needs shelter. It's slightly different. It's still in a school, but it's ran by the health department, so there's power for those that are electric dependent.
Okay.
It is staffed by nurses for those that need help taking medications and that type of stuff. But those are things we really need to know ahead of time so that we can plan for you. Or even if I spoke to a lady today who had no idea, she's like, I have no way to go. I don't have transportation. We can help you with that if you let us know ahead of time. You can register as somebody who needs assistance with transportation. We will call you before the storm and say, hey, this is what we're expecting. Are you going to need a transportation? Are you going to evacuate? Mm-hmm. And we will come and get you and make sure that you get to a safe place.
So what's the best way to contact you? Obviously, don't call 911. Let's make that clear, unless there is a true emergency. How should folks reach out to y'all to, like, register for special needs or get more information?
Yep. So the 850-745-7100 is the main sheriff's office number. That one is staffed by my dispatchers 24 hours a day. And then the direct emergency management line is 850-745-7200. And once we are activated and in response, then that number also becomes a 24-hour number. But day to day, it's an 8 to 5 number pretty much.
Okay, and I think you mentioned earlier Sheriff Miller has an app now.
He does.
The folks can get that information. And I know I see Sheriff Miller's team on Facebook giving updates when there's crashes and stuff. So if you do Facebook, you've got that option. Is there a website as well? Or?
There is. So Sheriff Miller also has the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office website. There's an emergency management page there where you can go to find information that we've gone over today. He also puts information out during disasters through that page. He puts information out over the app, and he does put information out nonstop over his Facebook page as well.
Outstanding.
So following the sheriff in any of those ways will get you the correct information.
So 850-745-7100.
That is really the best number because that's communications. It's a 24-hour number, and then they can transfer you to the person you need to talk to.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for the time. And what I'm hearing is get your plan, get your 2 plans now. It's blue skies. Get it done now. Be prepared.
Be prepared. Get connected. Stay engaged.
That's right.
So that we can be a more resilient community.
Perfect. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. And thank you for what you and the whole team do here. We sure appreciate y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate you helping us get the message out.